What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 30 Minutes of Hell. I am your host, Brandon Baker, joined by Joey Jackson and Matt Jackson. Reminder that we are brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your stuff at under 30 Minutes of Hell. We appreciate you guys tuning in to talk some Razorback basketball with us. And what a week it has been. The headline, of course, the Hogs are set to hire John Calipari as their next head coach.
I think we need to start this pod off with a pig
Big
suey.
suey. I love it.
What
I
a
love
week,
it.
man.
Yeah, but I mean, it has not been all butterflies and rainbows, though. It was a heck of a roller
Yeah.
coaster for a while
Yep.
with the coaching carousel and who we thought we were going to get and who we have been told denied the job opportunity. So it's been crazy all week, but we're going to get into some of that, talk about our feelings about Calipari, and then we're also going to look a little bit at some of his recruits and current players that could potentially follow him to Arkansas, since the Hawks currently have 13 open roster spots at the
Mm.
moment. So they're going to need some commitments soon. So we'll get into all of that. But for now, let's dive right into, like I said, the man of the hour, the highlight, the headline. It's crazy that it was kind of the news kind of broke. I know nothing official as of this recording, nothing official has been announced, but news started to break among national outlets within 24 hours of the national championship game. And it's crazy that it kind of made the national championship game take a back seat for a little while. Like all eyes were on the Hogs
Well,
for
when
a
a
while.
coach like that is rumored to be leaving an organization that he's been at for so long, like how can it not?
Right.
Yeah.
I may look a little exhausted because my sleep schedule has been absolutely trashed because of this. Sunday night, I was like, I'm going to go to bed. Brandon, call me if he's hired. And I didn't even go to sleep. It was like Christmas Eve that
Mm-hmm.
entire night. It's been a wild ride, and I couldn't be happier with 13 open roster spots than to have
That's true.
the
That's true.
man
It's
himself.
it's it's best case scenario at this point, and we'll get into the details of kind of what all went down with the coaching search and everything here in a minute. But after not knowing who we were going to get, some of the names that were thrown against the wall, all kinds of stuff that was going on this last week, it's best case scenario. I mean, it cannot be described as anything other than a home run hire. You can point to his recent, lack of success in the tournament, whatever you want to look at, but there's no one else that you could have realistically went and hired that would take the national brand that Arkansas has currently, where it's higher than it's been in decades, thanks to Muss. I understand that we're in a bad position roster wise right now, but from a national perspective, Muss elevated the program while he was here, and you could not have found anybody realistically to come in and like double that overnight. He took it to another level as a national brand, and he does that, with his success, with his history, his name, all of that, but also just with the guys he brings in. Because, like Matt said, we've got 13 roster spots, and we're not freaked out about it because we're giving John Calipari the keys and a bunch of money and saying, go fill out this roster with who you want. So it's out of left field. I don't think anybody believed it. We're still hesitant to believe it because, like I
Right.
said, it hasn't officially been announced yet.
That's the
But
worst part.
I mean, at this point, we have multiple sources indicating that it's a done deal. We have images that have surfaced of new wall art in Bud Walton Arena with Calipari on them. We have a board of trustees meeting scheduled tomorrow morning for them to approve the salary that is over what they budgeted for. We have a scheduled arrival time at the airport where the Palm Squad is going to be there to meet him. And we have a scheduled press conference in Bud Walton Arena, already announced and open to the public. I don't know how much more official it can become until an official announcement actually comes out. And maybe it'll come out while we're recording here, but I mean, it's there. And like I've been saying, just so excited about it. It's a home run hire, especially after everything that we've been through. I mean, tell me what your thoughts are on Calipari if you got any other ones.
I'm just worried that I'm gonna roll up to Bud Walton tomorrow, and it's gonna be someone from, Jance or someone else. But I'm just kidding. That's not gonna
Surprise!
happen. That's not gonna happen. But it's like you said, Brandon. It's hard to argue. after the roller coaster that was this coaching search and how quickly everything happened, and we were 100% sure that it was going to be Beard, and then it wasn't Beard, and then we thought, well, maybe we'll get Tang. Then K-State, offered that extension to Tang. He was off the table. Will Wade had some controversy with a few different people, so we were kind of iffy there. And then we were looking at lower level coaches, and then just out of nowhere pop up with John Calipari, one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. How can you be upset with that outcome? It's just he brings something special to the Razorback brand, and that's notoriety. Having a name like that, being the head coach of your basketball team, that holds power. And now the power is fully in the Razorbacks' hands. We were so excited about Beard from the aspect of in-state recruiting, and now I mean, God, how much better can you get at recruiting in general than John Calipari? So I think this is 100% best case scenario. I don't see how anyone can be upset with this hire.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just sitting the sleepless nights of like, who are we going to get? Who are we going to get? And the just stress of who we think we're going to get. And it's great. I'm super excited. But I think every school that Arkansas contacted their head coach needs to thank Arkansas because we gave them all raises. All right. That's all I'm saying. All of them raises. You get a raise, you get a raise. I'm pumped. Chris Beard, who I don't, I was pumped for him, but now I hated Calipari, not because of who he is, but because we had to play against him. He's such a good coach. And I think I've talked to some people that are like, I don't know how he's going to fit in Arkansas. I don't know how fans are going to react. I'm like, we're reacting like this. Like, we're reacting super excited, super happy he's here because of how much respect he deserves because he's that good. And I'm excited for the new step, not only for him, because I think the rumor was that he just was not happy in Kentucky. And I'm glad he gets the next step for a absolutely rabid fan base, and it's going to be fun.
And I think you're right, Matt. I think it's a win-win for both sides.
It really is.
I mean, his course has kind of been, his course has kind of been run in Kentucky. I think that fan base is kind of happy to see him go after the, no success over the last few years in the tournament. So, and we're excited to have a hungry Cal. So,
right.
I think it's, like I said, a win-win.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. I think you're exactly right. But Matt brought up some good points too about, Chris Beard who and all of that stuff that went down. And we just kind of want to share a little bit about just what we have been told to this point of what really went down with the coaching search, and preempt it with, I don't know if anyone really knows what the heck went down, but we're going to talk a little bit about that whole carousel and our thoughts of what the last week has been before Calipari was announced. But first, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines for making all of our picks and predictions, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your hard-earned money to get it. This is what you have to do to make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll get up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the rest of the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and the thing that I love the most, a nice little parlay boost, as well as a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything that you could possibly imagine betting on. From odds on getting to the Final Four to national championship futures, I'm calling it right now. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app. Use that code FIELD and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the pod in any podcast app. Like and share the YouTube videos that you enjoy. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Okay, so this last week has been a roller coaster before, well, it's still a roller coaster with Calipari. We're still waiting on that official announcement. But before that, when Musk first left, people thought Juracek had an ace up his sleeve. He had already been tweeting videos. He had already, kind of been talking the talk. And it looked like it was going to be Chris Beard. I mean, if you go back and listen to our last podcast, it was Chris Beard. That's all we talked about. And everyone seemed to be aligned that it was at the finish line. They were hammering out details. It was going to be Chris Beard. And then something caused a hold up. Again, speculation a little bit, secondhand knowledge. Only the people in the room probably really know what happened. But what has been shared with us, first of all, Ole Miss did counter with something that was hard for him to turn down. So that's obviously a big part of it. It wasn't like it was just Arkansas that turned him away. But it sounds like Hunter Yurachek was trying to include some things in this contract that were like a no-compete clause, a high buyout, some things to try to protect the team, protect the university for the first few years that he was here. And it didn't seem like he really cared for that. Seemed like maybe he was had his eyes on other jobs and was looking to use this as a stepping stone to keep moving forward. So you can say Juracek fumbled that bag if you want, but I feel like he was still doing what he needed to do to protect the university and not just handing any coach the keys that could have left at the end of next year. Beard has been to a few places where he left very quickly to move up the ladder to next jobs. And I wouldn't be surprised if he had his eyes on this Kentucky job now that it's open with Calipari leaving. But it wasn't Beard. For whatever reason, he backed out, tweeted that he's going to stay at Ole Miss. News came out that he's not coming here. Next on the list was Jerome Tang. That was pretty short-lived. Kansas State offered him an extension, a raise, whatever, and he accepted that pretty fast. It seems like he's pretty happy in Kansas State, although I will throw in the caveat that Scott Drew of Baylor seems to be the leading candidate for Kentucky right now. And if he goes to Kentucky, I would not be surprised at all if Jerome Tang is at the top of Baylor's list. So that's something to watch for.
Yeah.
But he did turn us down as well. And so at that point, you miss on Beard, you miss on Tang. The fan base is asking for Will Wade. The Juracek or like the Arkansas Democrat Gazette or something like that tweets out that Darrell Walker from Euler and Chris Jans from Mississippi State are next in line to get interviews. And it fell off a cliff fast. And no disrespect to those guys, they're good coaches, but the way Arkansas handled their situation and the way that they needed to keep improving on the momentum Musselman had, they were just not the type of hires that you would consider a home run hire. You know what I mean? They just weren't that kind of guy. Like they could have come here and had fine success, but not at the level that we thought we were about to get with Chris Beard, and not that we think we're about to get with Calipari.
And that makes Arkansas look bad in general because it makes it look like those were our, D and E options.
Right.
We missed out on A, B, C options, and now we're resorting to last resorts. It's not a good look for Arkansas in general.
Yeah, no, yeah, it got bleak fast. It did.
Yeah.
But so then, like I said, and I'm curious too behind the scenes stuff how quickly Juracek and some of the boosters and everybody started talking to Calipari, because if they were already in conversation with him when the news about Chris Jans and Darrell Walker getting an interview came out, and those were truly like smoke screens to lead the public eye away from what he was really doing, it's genius on their end. And, like I said, we don't know. We're not behind the scenes with them, but I would be interested to learn about what went on behind the scenes. But regardless, the roller coaster ended with a home run hire, and John Calipari could not be happier. I don't know, like I said, how much of the credit goes to Juracek, how much of it goes to the Tysons, because Calipari is tight with one of the Tysons. Somebody deserves a ton of credit for getting this done. Probably a combination of people that work together to get this done, but fantastic job. So I've kind of laid out kind of the timeline of what kind of went on somewhat behind the scenes for Arkansas this last week. What was it like from, a fan perspective for you guys having to deal with this stuff and traverse what the heck was going on?
Well, I'm trying to think of just the worst experience possible that I could think of, and like just insert yourself in that. Imagine you jump out of a plane without a parachute, and you're just falling and just going straight down. That's how it felt. Because my goodness, that was rough. overall.
It's almost like you jump out of a plane thinking you have a parachute and you pull the cord and realize there's nothing there, and then you're
Right.
about to hit the ground and you pull your emergency cord and it gives you
Right.
butterfly wings.
It
You
turns into
know?
like a hoverboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was crazy. I've never been so in on everything. It was great. Thank you, Brandon, for that, because he was constantly updating us, and it was just wild because if I can see that smoke screen of those two coaches being a real deal, because if I'm right, and Brandon, you may have actually said this, or I maybe saw it on Twitter or whatever. Um, Cal doesn't have an agent,
Right. He
and
doesn't.
so like, and based on his contract, if he negotiates, that's a breach of his contract. Is that
I think it's
It
if he
was-
negotiates without telling Kentucky, right?
right?
Yeah, and all of
So-
those details are still fuzzy because
right?
conflicting reports are still coming out about, well, he didn't disclose that he was talking to another school, but then another report came out that he asked Kentucky to counter. So how can both of those be true at the same time? And
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
what that whole situation
There's
was.
a lot of stuff, but I would not be surprised if they used it just to maybe dial down like who they're actually talking to. But also at the same time, knowing how Arkansas is, I really do think we were that desperate at a certain point. It does make sense. And I think at that point, the boosters were like, taking this into our own hands, and
Yeah.
maybe started helping out there. So there's all sorts of stuff. Either way, thank you to everybody who made this happen, because it has revived me, because I was about done. I was telling them, like, guys, I don't think I can watch basketball anymore.
Matt and I were fully prepared to take a year off Razorback basketball.
Just like the program, they don't have any players either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, interesting thing. This is kind of something that I heard. I heard that John Calipari had listened to 30 Minutes of Hell, and he's like, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
these Razorback fans know what they're talking about. They know their stuff. I think this is where I want to be." So shout out to us, right?
Coach
We're
Cal,
part of
come
that
on
group.
over.
Yeah,
Get in here.
yeah.
We're part of that collective effort. There's no doubt.
So, Coach K, I know you're listening to this episode, right before you go on tomorrow, but we'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to talk to you, get your thoughts on things. But anyway, yeah, Matt took the words right out of my mouth. It was definitely a wild roller coaster. I said it earlier. I think that this was the best case scenario. It's hard to be upset about how this all transpired, whether or not we had 3 heart attacks over the course of 2 days. But I'm very happy with the outcome. I think all 3 of us are. I think the majority of Razorback Nation is. But yeah, that was kind of my experience.
Okay. Real quick, want to throw out here too. We don't know who all, again, no official announcement yet. We don't know who all Cal is bringing with him to Arkansas, like as staff members or as players coming in. We're actually about to get into some of those players, but I'm really interested to see the kind of staff he accumulates here, he builds here. It's been suggested to me that Ronnie Brewer is not going anywhere, that he will remain on staff as in his recruiting role, which is fantastic for in-state recruiting, in-state ties. And another name that keeps popping up, and I just got another just now as we're recording, another suggestion that it's a very real possibility that Kenny Payne, that just got fired from Louisville as being their head coach, could join as one of Cal's assistants. And that would be huge.
Yeah.
As an assistant coach, oh my gosh, guys, it's over
That's
for the SEC.
Yeah, that's a loaded staff.
If we're starting to build stuff like this. So, but beyond the staff, we'll find out a lot of that. I think he's set to bring several of his guys from Kentucky with him. But we can get into those details when we know them. For now, we've got to talk about some players because Arkansas doesn't have any, like we mentioned earlier. But Cal does have the number 2 recruiting class currently signed in terms of incoming freshmen. And I would not be surprised at all to see multiple of them follow him, and not to mention maybe some of the guys that played for Kentucky this past season. So we're going to get into some of those names and talk about who is possible that could come and who we're really hoping does come. But first, we're going to take one more quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, so let's get into some of these players that could come with Cal to Arkansas. And we're going to start with some of the freshmen. And I just saw a tweet earlier. Shout out to Kevin McPherson for pointing this out. Maybe happenstance, but the last time Cal left a job for another job, he had 3 McDonald's All-Americans committed to him that followed him to Kentucky when he left Memphis to go to Kentucky. Those All-Americans turned out to be Eric Bledsoe, John Wall, and DeMarcus Cousins. So Cal currently has 3 All-Americans committed to him with Kentucky that who knows? We don't have any announcements yet, but if they follow him to Arkansas, maybe we can see some history repeat itself. But we'll start with Jaden Quintons, 5-star McDonald's All-American, 6'9", 6'10", forward center, just a freaking beast of an athlete, man.
Yeah.
And he's got a 7'3" wingspan, dunks every time he can get in the paint, has good touch too, though, even from like the mid-range from outside. Just an absolute monster on both sides of the ball. The best player in this class, I think, best player in Kentucky's current class, I think. And I think the coolest part about Q is that he's only 16 years old. And so to be eligible for the draft, I think you have to turn 19 within the calendar year or something along those lines. And so because he's only 16, he'll pretty much have to be in college for 2 years unless he takes some other alternate route. So wherever he goes, he could end up being there for 2 years. So that's a huge plus if he were to decide to come here.
Great.
And just that they're out here, I'm going to let you guys give me your thoughts on him real quick, though. His dad, I think it was back on like March 24th, whenever there was reports coming out that John Calipari's tenure at Kentucky was in the hands of their AD and what was going to happen this offseason was uncertain. Q's dad actually tweeted and said, "We're definitely riding with the big dog until the wheels fall off," referring to Calipari.
Which is
Seems like a good sign.
very reassuring. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you guys feel about Q? Do you want him in Arkansas?
I love Jaden. I'm not gonna argue a guy who has got a 7'3" wingspan and who's just a paint beast. That the guy is a freak athlete. He's got. I mean, you basically covered it all, Brandon. He's got great, like mid-range game. He can, take a couple shots outside. But what I really like is his defensive capability. I like his length. I like his athleticism. I think that he can be a dominant force for something, Matt, you've talked about for the past months. Just a big center that we can rely on down low. I think he fits that role perfectly. And I think he's ranked number 14 or maybe number 12 on ESPN's recruits in this coming year, and very enticing that he's got potentially 2 years of college, before he can even enter into the draft. So if we can get this guy for 2 years, that's a blessing, from what I see.
Yeah, you said it. That's who I've been looking for. That's one of them, Welcome to Arkansas, buddy. Better learn some Woo Pig, all right?
See, he needs to watch this podcast too, because we literally just called the Hogs, so you can learn it right here.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, my goodness, being that height and being able to jump like this man does is just wonderful. I would be pumped to have him, and that's like the bare minimum I'm saying right now. I'm excited if he decides to join us for sure. My goodness.
Yeah, and I bring him up first because I think he is the highest rated recruit. And I think there's a good chance. Like I said, his dad tweeted that. I think it's a solid chance that he follows Cal. Nothing set in stone. Obviously, they'll wait and see who Kentucky brings in. All of these guys will probably wait to at least see how it goes at Kentucky before they make their decisions. But I definitely think most of these guys would consider coming to Arkansas. And so these next two guys, I'm going to group together a little bit. Boogie Fland, 6'2" combo guard, and then Carter Knox, a 6'5" wing player, like guard forward kind of combo player. Both 5 stars, both McDonald's All-Americans. Boogie is the guy that just gets hot in a hurry. We talked about it a little bit before the pod. He's kind of one of those guys that, like Caliph Battle, JD Note, gets to his spots and gets shots up in a hurry, but maybe even more talented than both of them as a ball handler, just with the ball in his hands. May have to rein in some of his shot taking decisions as he gets, more structure at the collegiate level. He didn't have the greatest shooting percentages in high school, but just a freaking scorer, man. Can get from all 3 levels, can put the ball in the hole, and big enough and long enough and quick enough to be an active defender, especially in a good system. And then Carter Knox, just an athlete on the wing, a 3-level scorer, the younger brother of former Kentucky standout Kevin Knox, who was a lottery pick under Cal. And he's comfortable. To me, he looks most comfortable kind of attacking inside the perimeter, like inside the arc, but he can score from all 3 levels. Great size, great length, great athleticism. All 3 of these guys would be huge. Do you guys have any additional thoughts on either of these 2 players?
Well, I will say this is not the first boogie that Coach Cal would have success with. All right. So, based on previous players, I think he's going to be a good one. I think the big thing, too, you mentioned how well Boogie can handle the ball. He's also a pretty good off-ball player as well, and that's always a good sign when you're going to possibly have a team full of dudes. You want those guys to be able to move without the ball and get their shots. But like you said, my goodness, he can handle the ball. Step back threes galore is one of the highlights I watched. He was just step back after step back, and he was hitting them fairly consistently based on a highlight film. I know we didn't get to see his missed shots, but overall, I think he'd be a great fit and would be fun to watch because who knows, randomly he'll give you 30, just like we were saying.
Yeah, and my issue with Boogie, he's obviously a great offensive player. He's not the point guard that I have personally been looking for. Obviously I've vocalized it many times. I'm looking for a pass first guard who can facilitate an offense. And Brandon, I'm not sure if you'll touch on this guy later on. I don't foresee him coming to Arkansas. Everything's kind of up in the air right now. We don't really know. But Travis Perry, he's smaller guard. He's 6'1", but he's kind of that more of a floor general guy that I kind of think of. He's got a very high basketball IQ, but I definitely don't. I see Boogie making a huge impact on the team if he comes to Arkansas as well. He's just not that pass first guy that I've been searching for. But Carter Knox, on the other hand, the 6'5" forward that Brandon you mentioned earlier, he's kind of that long just athlete forward that you've kind of been touching on as well. I was like you, Matt, was looking up some highlight tapes of some potential guys maybe looking to transfer over to Arkansas through this whole process. But I saw this one play of Knox where someone threw him a lob, and I swear it looked like his head was at the rim and his arm was touching the top of the backboard. I know that's not what happened, but man, this guy can jump through the roof. He's like you said again, Brandon, a 3-level scorer. He's very, very good at attacking the rim. He handles the ball well. He's an athlete. I feel like he plays pretty similar to his brother Kevin. But really excited about him. I really hope that we can get him in a Razorback jersey. I think that he could kind of be that forward guy that we're looking for that can really make a difference on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and speaking of that athletic wing, the other guy that I think is probably in the group with guys like Carter Knox in terms of being the most likely to flip to Arkansas, Billy Richmond. He's a 4-star recruit, but he's top 25, ranked in the top 25 on all 4 of the major recruiting sites. That's Rivals, 247, ESPN, and On3. He's 6'6", a big forward, and he's just an athletic, powerful kind of dude. He likes getting downhill. He's a left-handed guy. He needs a little bit of work on his outside shot, but he is that dude that is just like, he's college ready now in terms of strength in his body. And so I think that he could be a good addition, a good role player type of player, surrounded by the right type of offensive pieces around him. Because I don't think that he would necessarily be ready to be any kind of leading scorer at the collegiate level yet, but that big, athletic, slashing type of wing that can play defense and just body up opponents, can help on the boards, that kind of stuff. I would love Billy Richmond. He's that. And I know we're not really operating under must rules anymore, but those guys that have thrived here for the last 5 years, he's that kind of mold. And I would love to see him in a Hog uniform as well. And then the last of the guys that we were going to touch on, the recruits, Somto Cyril, I think. Sorry if I mispronounced that. 6'10" center, maybe the most unbelievable high school athlete I've ever seen, if I'm being honest with you guys. Just in terms of combination of his height, how strong he is, and how high he jumps. Holy crap, he is incredible.
He's a very, very raw athlete.
100%.
And that was the one that you sent that stuck his elbow
In the rim,
He
in a
honey
game,
dipped it. Yeah, in game, honey
on a
dip.
fast break.
Please, please,
That's
come here.
so he's not like overly skilled at anything offensively in terms of like handling the ball, shooting the ball, extra passes, things like that, like the little stuff. He's not that kind of player, but just the truest of paint beasts, like Matt has been talking about. He has good instincts as a shot blocker, ferocious rebounder. Every time he's getting the ball, he's trying to rip the rim off the backboard. Just that kind of monster in the paint. So again, not the guy that you bring in to be your primary scorer, but the perfect complementary guy to fill around that kind of spot. So, you guys have any other thoughts that you want to share on any of these guys?
He'd be the perfect guy for Bud Walton. That's all I am saying. Could you imagine?
I think a lot of these guys would be.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness.
I need to. We all need to attend the home opener for,
Dude,
for next season.
It could be a Monday at 9 p.m. I will be there.
All right. So real quick then, I'm just going to touch real quick. I'm just going to kind of brush through this list. Guys that played for Kentucky last year that have a chance still to transfer to Arkansas. Adu Thero already hit the transfer portal. 6'8" sophomore, averaged 7 points, 5 rebounds last year. Aaron Bradshaw, their 7'1" freshman, hit the portal. I don't know that he is thinking Arkansas. I think that he might have been trying to get out of Kentucky, regardless of whether Cal State or not. So I don't think he's going to follow Cal to Arkansas, but you never know. A different situation. And then you've got DJ Wagner has not announced anything yet, but I've seen reports or seen suggestions that he could be a prime candidate to follow Cal. I think he's up there in that top group of guys in terms of being the most likely to follow him. Averaged almost 10 points a game this year, 3 assists, shot a 41% from the field, a 6'4" kind of combo guard. So that could be a really good complementary piece. And then the last guy that I wanted to bring up was, and again, I'm sorry if I butchered this, but Zvonimir Ivicic, the 7'2" guy, the foreign guy that Cal brought in as a freshman this year. I know he joined the team about halfway through the season. Can shoot the ball. Shot 38% from 3 this year at 7'2". Only averaged just under 4 rebounds a game, so he's not the type of like paint beast that we're talking about. But as an additional piece, as a bench player, an offensive punch where you bring in a 7'2" guy that can shoot the 3 ball like that, that would be cool.
And,
that would be
and
cool to
I
have.
think he was the guy that Kentucky fans were a little upset that Cal wasn't playing more. You know, obviously you said he came in mid-season, so he kind of had his rotation more solidified. But that could be a big one too if he can come to Fayetteville.
Yeah, I agree. And just one thought that I've seen somebody say that if he's going to play college basketball next year, it's probably going to be for Cal. So I think those would be.
I don't hate that.
For me,
Yeah.
DJ Wagner and Ivicic would be the 2 guys from last year's roster that I would be watching closest. Is there anybody else on this roster from last year that you guys wanted to bring up, touch on?
You covered him.
No, not really.
So nobody wants Reed Shepherd then? No.
Well, I mean, of course. Of course.
Reed Shepherd's transferring to Mizzou. You heard it here first. I'm just kidding. He's going to the draft. I'm sure he declares.
Yeah. Shepherd is not announced yet. He's not on the list yet, but he is projected to be a high lottery pick. So all jokes. But that pretty much covers it. It covers all the guys we wanted to talk about. Can't state it enough that we're super excited to get Cal on campus to see what he can do with this wide open blank slate of a roster. I'm ready to start seeing some commits roll through, ready to see this team starting to take shape. But that's all we got to talk about today. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in to talk some Razorback basketball with us. We are brought to you by the Field of 68 Podcast Network. You can find us on YouTube, on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your stuff at. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever it is you do on those platforms. And you can find us under 30 Minutes of Hell. I have been your host, Brandon Baker, joined by Joey Jackson and Matt Jackson. And as always, go Hogs.
Thanks, y'all.
Whoop